Hello, Ross Sharp here with another episode of Aeronautica. The Vickers F.B.5 Gunbus, the first fighting squadron. The British armament company Vickers Limited had been thinking of building a fighting aeroplane designed to carry a machine gun from before the First World War broke out. Indeed, the company had exhibited the prototype of a two-seat pusher aircraft of this type at the 1913 Olympia Air Show in London. The aircraft was named the Destroyer and caused a sensation, but unfortunately crashed on its maiden flight. Undeterred, Vickers began building a series of experimental fighting biplanes, one being designated FB5. The aircraft was unusual, being armed from the outset, and this led to it being issued piecemeal to various units of the new Royal Flying Corps. A brand new squadron, number 11, was formed on the type on the 14th of February 1915 at Netheravon, Wiltshire, for fighting duties. That is, specifically to destroy other aircraft. This makes Number 11 Squadron the very first such unit in the history of flying. Number 11's motto, swifter and keener than eagles, was rather ironic, because it is a fair bet that there are some eagles that can fly faster in a dive than the FB5's top speed of 70 miles per hour, and most certainly can fly higher than its ceiling of just 9,000 feet. The slow top speed was due to a number of interrelated factors. Firstly, its 100 horsepower Gnome monosoupape engine was inefficient, as its single exhaust valve in the crown of each cylinder and the inlet ports for the fuel-air mixture at the base of the cylinder, which were uncovered as the piston reached the end of its power stroke, made for poor fuel economy, and this was compounded by the fact that early pusher machines of World War I had to place the tail behind the engine and propeller, giving rise to a wide, heavy structure forming the rear of the aircraft. In turn, this structure required a great deal of wire bracing, increasing drag and reducing speed still further. Wire pusher configuration? Well, no one had yet invented a reliable method of shooting a machine gun through a spinning propeller, so to give a clear field of fire, the gun had to be mounted in an unobstructed position at the front of the aircraft. At this time it was deemed necessary to employ a crew of two, one as the pilot and a gunner to handle the machine gun and engage the enemy. Archibald Lowe, the Vickers designer, had produced a substantial two-bay equal-span biplane to carry this deadly weapon, the machine gun. At first, a belt-fed Maxim or Vickers 303 weapon was used on a pintle mount. Unfortunately, the cloth carriage belt kept snagging on objects and was difficult to manage, so a handy drum-fed Lewis machine gun was substituted. As with many other early warplanes, their shape and function evolved rapidly, and some FB5s had wing warping like the Wright biplanes, and yet others had differing sizes and shapes of rudder. On the outbreak of war, various RFC units were sent to the Western Front, some of which had a few FB5 aircraft on strength. Unfortunately, one of these early machines, crewed by Second Lieutenant D.C.W. Sanders and M.R. Chidston, landed behind enemy lines and made a present of the type to the German forces. Number 11 Squadron arrived at an aerodrome next to the racecourse at Saint-Omer in France in July 1915. It was here that it likely acquired its nickname of Gunbus, as the type was used to perform escort duties to unarmed machines on artillery observation, photography, and long-range reconnaissance missions. The FB5 quickly established itself in the early air fighting, equipping numbers 2, 5, 7, 11, 16, 18, 24, 25, 32 and 35 squadrons RFC. A total of 125 aircraft were built in England, and it was also adopted by the Aéronautique Militaire, using 75 machines built by the French company Darracq, and also by the Tøjhusverksted, the Danish arsenal workshops, which built 12 for use by the Royal Danish Air Force. One early action on the 7th of November 1915 by the crew of a gunbus led to the award of a Victoria Cross to Second Lieutenant Gilbert Stuart Martin Insall, who, along with his gunner, first-class air mechanic T.H. Donald, forced down and destroyed a German aviatak machine, and after being shot down by ground fire, repaired their machine and returned to base. The gunbus was soon outclassed by newer German machines, such as the Fokker Eindecker, with its synchronized 7.9mm Spandau machine gun firing through the propeller. Its slow speed and low operational ceiling meant that it could neither initiate combat nor run away from the opponents. An improved version, the F.B.5, with a neater aluminium alloy forward fuselage and streamlined Royal Aircraft Factory wires, as they were known, rather than drag-inducing steel cables, tried to improve matters, but was not a great success. Although 119 F.B.9s were built, as opposed to just over 200 F.B.5s, the type soon faded from the RFC inventory. As you would expect, no original F.B.5 aircraft survive. What you see here is an excellent flying replica built by a British Aircraft Corporation apprentices and volunteers from original drawings held by the Science Museum in 1965-66. This was done to mark the centenary of the Royal Aeronautical Society. A working Gnome monosoupape engine was constructed from parts of two others held by the Royal Air Force, and the machine, registered as Golf Alpha Tango Victor Papa, was finished as number 2345, named Bombay, one of 125 F.B.5 built at the Vickers plant at Crayford on the outskirts of London. The original 2345 served in France with number 18 Squadron RFC at Trezéen, being flown at times by no less a person than Captain Hereward de Havilland. Golf Alpha Tango Victor Papa was first flown on the 14th of June 1966, the test pilot being the renowned D.G. Dizzy Addicut, and in the next 3 years appeared at everything from the Biggin Hill Airfair to the SBAC Farnborough Air Display. The highlight of its flying career was taking part in the Royal Air Force Golden Jubilee display at Royal Air Force Abingdon in 1968, where it was formally handed over to Sir Dermot Boyle, chairman of the Royal Air Force Museum Trustees. After a period in store, the aircraft was delivered to the RAF Museum, Hendon, for display. However, after some years the fabric was found to have seriously degraded, and the replica was sent to Royal Air Force Cardington to be stripped and recovered with new fabric. The opportunity was taken to give the steel framework proper anti-corrosion treatment at this time. Finally, in May 2003, the gunbus joined many other superb World War I machines in the refurbished Grahame White Factory on the Hendon site. One interesting note: the replica Lewis gun is shown here complete with its outer cooling shroud in place. In practice, this was soon removed at unit level, as it was found to be unnecessary in air-to-air fighting. The Vickers F.B.5 Gunbus. Hardly a star performer, but a most significant flying machine.